Beloved, let us begin where most of us begin, and let us pause there long enough to see why we never seem to get beyond it. We come to prayer with a reflex that has become so automatic we hardly hear it. I am spiritual. I am loving. I am healed. I am supplied. We dress the human self in Sunday clothes and expect heaven to salute. We take the same me that worries about the rent, reaches for spectacles to read the prayer book, checks the watch to keep the appointment, and we try to crown that me with the word spiritual, as if a label could turn a bottle of water into wine. Do you see it? We start with I, and then, of course, we must continue propping up that I, polishing it, persuading it, protecting it, and we call that prayer. Now, gently, I would like to touch the hidden assumption and let it dissolve before it leads us on another weary circle. The assumption is that the human sense of self, the finite, personal me, can become spiritual by asserting it. That by repeating words we can make mortality immortal, make finitude infinite, make a branch the vine. But words do not make oak trees, roots do. Assertion does not make spirit. Spirit is. The attempt to enthrone me at the center of communion is the very thing that closes the door we think we are opening. For me is a concept, an image fashioned of time and circumstance, and the kingdom is not a concept. The kingdom is presence. What if communion is not self-assertion at all? What if it is recognition, quiet, humble, beholding recognition of what God is, already present, already functioning, already enough? God is. God is spirit. God is life. God is love. God is the substance of all form and the law of all being. God is the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. God is here. Do you feel the shift as those words are allowed to rest in you, not as a chant to work up a feeling, but as a turning of the gaze from a mirror to the sun? Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Hear that within, not as a promise to come, but as a fact of being. So we will set an experiment for our time together, and you will carry it beyond this hour. Each time the mind reaches for I am, pause. Do not wrestle it. Smile at it, as you would at a child reaching for a toy that squeaks. Then pivot. God is. God is spirit, and spirit is here. God is the life of this body. God is the activity of this mind. God is the law of this day. Speak it once or twice, and then be still. Let the words do what words can do, and then let silence take you where words cannot. Rest there. Rest until you begin to feel, not imagine, not insist, but feel, that a presence not born of your effort is present. This is the beginning of communion. From this moment on, we are not trying to improve me. We are learning to recognize what God is. And the very instant that shift occurs, prayer changes character. It ceases to be an exercise in self-description and becomes a beholding, a listening, a waiting upon the Lord. God is. God is. God is. And as we rest in that, the center changes, and harmony begins to show itself, not because we made it, but because we got out of the way long enough to witness it. Now comes the holy discipline that keeps us from drifting back into the old habit. Negation, then replacement. We do not tear down an idol and leave a vacant pedestal for the next passerby to mount. We remove the false claim and at once behold the true presence. This is not psychology, it is spiritual hygiene. The moment a self-assertion presents itself, I am spiritual, I am strong, I am safe, we smile inwardly and say, no, not I am spiritual, but God is spirit, and spirit is here. Not I am harmonious, but God is harmony, governing, adjusting, and fulfilling itself in its own way. Not I am healthy, but God is life, the animating presence of every function, the law of every atom, the rhythm of every organ. Not I am guided, but God is omniscience, revealing, unfolding, and ordaining my way as its way. Not I am supplied, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and fullness is present. Then let there be a pause, a Sabbath rest of the heart, so that these are no longer phrases, but a corridor through which you pass into silence. Understand me, we are not dabbling in word games. We are moving the seat of awareness. In the old posture, the person tries to reach God or borrow God's strength for private purposes. In the new posture, we awaken to God as the only presence and power, and the sense of a separate person begins to yield. The chatterer that says, I am this, I am that, is the mental mask, the biographical costume. It has a voice that tires quickly and fears being contradicted. The indwelling I does not chatter. It speaks as quiet certainty. Fear not, I am with thee. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Do you feel the difference? One is a performance. The other is presence. Now try it, right where you are. Close your eyes, if you can, and let the personal sentences fall to the floor like garments at bedtime. Not, I am spiritual, God is spirit, and spirit is here. Not, I am harmonious, God is harmony, and harmony is the law of this moment. Not, I am healthy, God is life, and life is the only life in evidence. Not, I am guided, God is omniscience, and omniscience is the light within. Whisper it once or twice, then be still. Let the words sink beneath thought and listen. In the stillness, you may notice a soft strengthening, a gentle warmth, a lightness that is not of your making. That is the dawning awareness of the infinite invisible as the very core of your being. We are not arguing with appearances. We are withdrawing belief from them and turning to what is. And as we make this exchange again and again, negating the personal claim, replacing it with God realization, and resting, the axe is laid to the root of the old tree. Prayer becomes beholding. Effort gives way to trust, and harmony begins to appear, not because we affirmed a better me, but because reality was allowed to announce itself. Let this be your prayer. Not I am, but God is. God is. God is. And in that holy repetition, the center is restored. Let us bring into the room the white poodle. You know the story. The hypnotist points to the corner and says, "See the white poodle." And there is a gasp, there is a scuffle, there is laughter and fear, and a dozen hands reaching to pet, to shoo, to leash what is not there. In the spell, the mind becomes terribly busy, measuring the size of the poodle, negotiating with it, trying to make it sit, trying to make it friendlier, less threatening, more hygienic. And nobody thinks to ask the only question that matters: who told me there was a poodle, and why am I believing it? Now look at our spiritual speech, while we gaze at fear, at lack, at resentment, at disease, at shame. We say, I am spiritual, I am safe, I am fearless. And meanwhile, we are stroking the poodle, patting it, pleading with it, arguing with it, binding it with ropes of affirmation, and then complaining that the animal struggles. Do you see? The very effort proves belief in the picture. When the human mind becomes the manager of reality, project manager, publicist, animal trainer, it has already accepted the show as real and is merely trying to edit it. That is why the struggle is so wearying. The I am is wrestling a dream and calling it a fact. We are not called to become more persuasive with illusions. We are called to awaken. The Christ way is not, I will make this poodle nice, I will turn this snake into a rope by positive thinking. The Christ way is, stand still, be still, and know that I am God. Withdraw the gaze, withdraw the credence, withdraw the breath you have been lending to the picture, and turn, not to another picture, but to presence. God is. God is spirit, and spirit is here. God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. God is life, unopposed, unthreatened, self-sustained. As the attention loosens from the object and rests in what God is, the spell loses oxygen. Wake up. Then you will see there is no white poodle. Try it in the small things, and you will find it ready in the large. I am anxious. There is the cue. Stop. Not, I am anxious, not, I am brave, but God is peace, and peace is here. I am lacking. Stop. Not, I am supplied, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and fullness is present. Whisper it once, twice, then let the whisper fall into silence. Do not peer back at the corner to check on the poodle. Look to me. Look within. Lo, I am with you. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. You will discover that we do not heal illusions. There is nothing there to heal. We awaken from them by withdrawing belief and beholding what God is, until the infinite invisible stands forth as the only fact. Then harmony appears, not because we tamed a dog that never was, but because reality announced itself when we stopped announcing me. God is. God is. God is. And in that beholding, the show is dismissed, and the day is governed by presence. Now listen to the way our Master spoke, and you will hear the end of the whole I am performance as a personal project. I can of mine own self do nothing. That is not weakness. That is the key that unlocks the infinite invisible. It is not an apology for inefficiency. It is the surrender of private power so that the Father within may be the only doer. Hear it again, quietly. I can of mine own self do nothing. My teaching is not mine. The Father within me, He doeth the works. Do you see how every string that would make the human puppet dance is being cut, one by one, until transparency remains and the light shines through? There are two I's being spoken on this path, and our entire practice turns on knowing which voice is moving. There is the I that boasts, the biographical I that seeks credit, that plans, that fears being exposed if the plan fails. That I says, I am spiritual, I am strong, I am going to heal this. And prayer becomes public relations, a campaign to secure God's endorsement for the person. Then there is the I that bears witness, that stands aside and says, the Father within is the source. I am the transparency through which God's own nature is revealing itself. One grasps, the other yields. One strains, the other rests. One argues with appearances, the other beholds what God is until appearances lose authority. This is why that personal I am blocks communion. It makes prayer a human project. It invites you to tighten the jaw, to square the shoulders, to put on a brave face, and then tire under the mask. But the Christ way is different. It says, not I, but Christ. Not the human mind discovering a solution, but mind being itself. Not I will be loving, but God is love here, loving as itself. Not I will make a way, but God is the way, the wisdom, the unfoldment of this very hour. Try the simple test this moment. Say within yourself, I am going to fix this. I am going to make this right. Feel what happens. The breath shortens. The forehead tightens. Time speeds up. Now stop. Turn and say gently, God is. God is presence. God is wisdom. God is the life of this situation. God is the law and the order of this moment. Whisper it once or twice, and then be still. If communion is dawning, you will not feel a surge of personal heroics. You will sense an arrival of quiet, like a low tide drawing strain out of the shore. That stillness is the witness that you have left private power and come under the government of the presence. Now close your eyes for just a breath, and let the Master's word free you. I can of mine own self do nothing. Father within, thou art the only doer. God is. God is spirit, and spirit is here. God is life, and life is the only life in evidence. God is intelligence, and intelligence is the light of my being. Listen. Lo, I am with you. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Let those words speak themselves as you. Do not help them. Do not decorate them. Rest. Our reliance is in the infinite invisible, not in anything that is visible, not in cleverness, not in muscle, not in human favor. Stand still and watch as the works are done by the presence that never leaves you nor forsakes you. This is the end of private power and the beginning of true communion. Where the boasting I falls silent, the witnessing I beholds. Where the person stops trying to be spiritual, God is seen to be spirit, and harmony appears as demonstration, not as achievement. Here is your path, from strain to surrender, from human management to divine government, from I am pretending to the quiet certainty, God is. God is. God is. And the Father within doeth the works. Now we come to the simple rhythm that resets the soul, the cadence that turns the face of consciousness Godward and keeps it there until it recognizes its source. God is life. God is love. God is spirit. God is law. God is substance. God is harmony. God is peace. God is light. God is wisdom. God is the only presence and the only power. Let the words walk slowly through you, not as an attempt to dress up a circumstance, not as a campaign to convince a reluctant deity, but as the gentle schooling of attention until the mind yields to presence and stands still. Understand this with me. We are not informing God of God. We are not persuading the infinite to be itself. We are re-educating a mind that has been staring at the white poodle in the corner, training it to release the picture and rest in reality. God is not an affirmation for the ego. It is contemplation. It is turning the gaze from mirrors to sun, from symptom to source, from project to presence. Whisper the litany once or twice, then let it drop into silence. That silence is the sanctuary in which, "Lo, I am with you," announces itself without your help. As this becomes prayer, notice what changes. Prayer is no longer a workshop where we fix a body, repair a reputation, or arrange tomorrow's weather. Prayer becomes beholding. God is life, then life is. God is harmony, then harmony is. God is law, then order is. God is love, then tenderness appears where harshness had seemed to be. You will see that rightness shows itself not because a human mind engineered it, but because reality, recognized, becomes visibility in experience. The word becomes flesh, not by rhetoric, but by rest. Now take the matter of supply, for the old habit is strong here. The person says, "I am prosperous, I am abundant," and then peeks at the mailbox. Instead, shift the axis. Not "I am prosperous," but "the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof." Fullness is God's, and fullness is here. The channel, a job, a client, a friend, a marketplace, cannot be separated from the source, any more than sunbeams can be severed from the sun. If a channel moves, the source remains, and new channels spring as naturally as streams in springtime. Rest there. God is substance. God is law. God is order. God is the government of this very hour. Now try it, very softly. God is life. Rest. God is love. Rest. God is spirit. Rest. God is law. Rest. God is substance. Rest. God is harmony. Rest. God is peace. Rest. And beneath the words, listen. I in the midst of you am mighty. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let the litany gather your wandering thoughts. Let it center you in the infinite invisible, and then be still long enough for trust to become felt rather than promised. This is how consciousness is re-centered in reality, and this is how communion begins to show itself as daily harmony. Not because we said, "I am," but because we stood still and witnessed. God is. God is. God is. There is a whisper beneath this practice, and I want to bring it into the light so it can lose its power. If I stop saying, "I am," do I disappear? If I cease to prop up the person, will there be only a blank? No. The one that disappears is the pretender, the biographical claimant who must keep talking or it fears it will vanish. The Goldsmith paradox is this: when the false sense fades, the true individuality appears. When the costume loosens, the living being steps out. When the echo is quiet, the voice is heard. You do not become less, you become real. The mist thins, and the mountain stands revealed. The same mountain that was always there when you were busy describing the fog. Understand this carefully. God does not become me. God is. God is being itself. And in being itself, it expresses its infinite nature as individual identity. Distinct, purposeful, radiant, without a shred of self-glorification. The sun does not become the window. It shines through it in its own light, and the window pane, clear of soot and slogans, shows forth the day. So with you. The moment you cease volunteering to be the doer, the transparency you are appears, and the Father within, He doeth the works. Not I expressing God, but God expressing as the individuality that bears your name without the baggage of ego. Then demonstration replaces declaration. You will find you no longer need to announce, I am loving. For love will be seen in your eyes, heard in your tone, felt in the way you lift a burden that no one asked you to lift. You will not assert, I am at peace. For peace will govern your responses the way a great tide governs little boats, drawing away the sharpness before the word is spoken. You will not keep repeating, I am supplied, for fullness will appear as the orderly sufficiency of this hour, ideas arriving in time, doors opening without noise, the right call, the right task, the right rest. You will not claim, I am wise, for wisdom will move your feet and your silence at the same time, and those around you will feel guided, though you gave them no instruction. This is the Word becoming flesh, not by slogans painted on the window, but by light through the glass. How does this happen? By dying daily to the personal claimant and being reborn into the awareness, God is here. Die daily, not by drama, but by these quiet surrenders. The pause when I am rises to your lips. The negation that refuses the old contract. The replacement. God is life. God is love. God is order. And then the rest, in which the Holy Ghost knits the two into one. Over and over, the little crucifixions of vanity and fear, and over, the small resurrections of gentleness, clarity, sufficiency. Not one grand gesture, but a rule of life. Make your daily contact, relinquish the author's chair, and let the author write. Listen within, and you will hear the assurance that settles all identity questions. Fear not. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Let that be the center. God is presence, then presence is recognizable as you, unboastful, unafraid. God is love, then love lives as your hands and timing. God is wisdom, then wisdom appears as your tact and restraint. Individuality without ego is not a subtraction. It is the revelation of what you have been beneath the chatter. Rest there, and watch how silently the true me walks into the room, lighted, useful, and free. Now let us turn from talking about it to tasting it. Gently, wherever you are, let the eyes close or soften, and let the mind rest from its errands. Notice the simple, irreducible fact that there is awareness here. Without reaching for a name or a story, recognize there is an I that knows this room, this chair, this breath. Do not dress it in yesterday. Do not furnish it with titles, injuries, or hopes. Let the whole gallery of images, your age, your work, your successes and setbacks, sit quietly in the outer hall. Here, just here, is awareness. Let it be bare. Let it be. Now apply the correction we have learned. Not, I am trying to be spiritual, but God is spirit, and spirit is the life of this awareness. Not, I am seeking God, but God is presence, already present, announcing itself where you are. Let the phrase be whispered once, twice, and then stop. God is. God is spirit. God is here. Stand still and allow that to be the only fact. If thoughts rise to argue, do not argue back. Smile at them and return. God is. God is. God is. And rest. As you rest, listen, not outwardly, but within the quiet center where no sentence is being manufactured. Here, the gentle voice that never left you begins to be felt, not as a visitor with fanfare, but as a warmth of certainty that requires no proof. Fear not. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I, in the midst of you, am mighty. Do not repeat it. Hear it. Let it say itself as you, without your help. This is not emotion. It is the hush that follows when the instrument is tuned and the musician lays a hand upon the strings. It is the end of describing and the beginning of knowing. Name this rightly. This quiet union, where your listening yields to the inner assurance, is the Holy Ghost. It is not a doctrine. It is a felt communion, the two becoming one in silence. The human sense of I no longer claiming. The divine I announcing itself as the only life here. Where moments ago you were the speaker and God the hoped-for audience, now God is the speaker, and you are the transparency through which the word passes into visibility. The infinite invisible that we have honored in principle now is the weight of peace upon the heart, the poise in the breath, the slackening of time's grip. Do not reach for signs. Do not test the room. Abide. God is presence, then presence is. God is law, then order is. God is love, then tenderness is here without your producing it. If a thought says, "But what of tomorrow?" return to the sanctuary. God is. If a sensation says, "I must do something," answer it with stillness. Father within, thou doest the works. Let this be a few minutes of holy uselessness in which you relinquish every project and let being be. And now, as you prepare to open the eyes or resume the task at hand, do not leave the sanctuary. You are not carrying a mood. You are remaining under government. Our reliance is in the infinite invisible, and it is present. Quietly know, without proclamation, God is. God is. God is. And the Holy Ghost abides as the felt assurance that you are not alone, not separate, not the doer. Walk in that, and the day will reveal what communion has already established. Beloved, the moment you open the door and step into the street, the phones ring, the mail arrives, the news scrolls, and at once the old general calls the troops. Do something, fix it, persuade them, secure a promise, get a plan, get a guarantee. The reflex is fast. Look to the employer for your bread, to the spouse for your reassurance, to the bank for your safety, to the doctor for your life, to the judge for your fate, to the minister or the general or the pundit for tomorrow. And with that one turn of the head, the white poodle trots back into the room wearing a uniform. Now hear the correction we have been given. Our reliance is in the infinite invisible, not in anything that is visible. Stand still, look to me, look within. Take money. The mind says, I must please this man, I must fear that company. My welfare is in a signature on a check. No, channels are not the source. Not, I am prosperous, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Fullness is God's, and fullness is here. God is substance. God is law. God is order. Let that be your first turn. Be still long enough for the heart to feel it, and then watch. Either the same channel becomes just and generous without your pleading, or a new channel rises without noise, and you do not tremble at either, for you are under government, not under favor. Take health. Do not enthrone a report as a power over life, and do not enthrone your fear of it either. The body is not a god, and neither is a chart. Life is God. God is life. God is intelligence. God is the law and rhythm of being. As you rest in that, the fear that confuses thought and rushes decisions begins to slacken. You find that the right step, the right practitioner, the right timing reveals itself without panic. And the very atmosphere of treatment changes because the government has changed. No longer personal heroics, but presence expressing as wisdom and care. Take the courtroom or the conference table. If you enter believing a person holds your fate, you will beg and bargain. If you enter knowing God is law, God is justice, God is order, you will stand still inside while speaking plainly outside. Do not look to the judge as the power. Look to the presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight, that softens a tone, that closes an unworthy door and opens the right one. Then words come measured, documents settle rightly, and if a loss appears, fear does not tyrannize, for outcome is not your God. And protection. Hear this clearly. Is the steel plate the protection? Or is the Word of God the protection? Plans, locks, insurances are fine as channels, but they are not your fortress. Stand still, I am a shelter. God is presence, then presence is a shield that does not fail when metal fails. God is government, then governments do not frighten you. God is love, then even in a strained house, tenderness returns not by force, but by the quiet arrival of what is. What changes as God is becomes experiential. Fear loosens its fingers. Decisions clarify without hurry. Timing grows gentle. You are moved to act neither too soon nor too late. People, systems, and outcomes cease to be idols. They become instruments. Keep the inner refrain. God is. God is. God is. And listen within to the unbroken assurance, I in the midst of you am mighty. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Walk there, and watch how the day obeys the presence you trust. Now we make this very simple and very immediate. The swap in real time. In the instant a sentence begins to form, I am sick, I am behind, I am unworthy, I am alone. Catch it before it earns its period. Do not finish the old prayer. Stop it at the I am and insert a holy pause. This is the doorway. In that pause, you decline to lend your breath to the picture. You refuse to make the human self the author, and you turn, quietly, decisively, Godward. Why is the pause so precious? Because the spell breaks in the gap. Hypnotism needs momentum. It needs you to nod and complete the sentence. The moment you do not finish it, the white poodle starts to fade. The rope begins to be a rope again. In that small Sabbath between words, attention leaves the corner and returns to presence. Private power is laid down. Divine government is allowed. That is why you must not rush to replace one noisy sentence with another. Make the pause. Stand still. Look to me. Look within. Now perform the swap. If the body is shouting, "I am sick," do not argue. Not, "I am well," but God is life. God is the law and rhythm of being. God is the intelligence of every function. Life is the only life in evidence. If the clock or ledger hisses, "I am behind," do not bargain. Not, "I am prosperous," but God is substance. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Fullness is present, and order is the law of this hour. If shame whispers, "I am unworthy," do not polish the mask. Not, "I am righteous," but God is righteousness. God is mercy here. Grace is the atmosphere of my being. If loneliness sighs, "I am alone," do not fetch a crowd. Not, "I am popular," but God is love. God is ever-present companionship. I and the Father are one. If confusion mutters, "I am lost," do not manufacture a map. Not, "I am clever," but God is wisdom. God is light. The way is in God being itself as this very moment. Always end in silence. Whisper the substitution once or twice, and then let the words drop into the heart like stones into a clear pool. Listen. Do not decorate. Do not test. In that hush, the inner assurance begins to be felt. Fear not. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. I in the midst of you am mighty. That is the answer to the prayer you did not finish. Let it say itself as you. Practice this by the dozens each day. At the inbox, in traffic, at the doctor's phone call, in the kitchen sink's overflow. Catch the "I am," pause, swap, and be still. Refuse the old habit of peeking back at the corner to see if the poodle has improved. Keep your gaze inward. God is. God is. God is. And rest. After the rest, you will find that an action, if any is required, presents itself without strain. Words measured, steps unhurried, timing kind. Here is a short litany for quick use and quiet endings. Body. God is life. God is law. God is intelligence. Rest. Money. God is substance. God is fullness. God is order. Rest. Relationships. God is love. God is harmony. God is ever-present companionship. Rest. Guidance. God is wisdom. God is light. God is the way. Rest. Let each trail off into the infinite invisible until trust is felt, not promised. This is how every anxious "I am" becomes a doorway into communion. One pause at a time, one swap at a time, the day changes its center of gravity. The person stops performing. Presence begins governing. And harmony appears, not because we affirmed a better self, but because reality was allowed to announce itself when we stood still and knew. God is. God is. God is. When prayer ceases to be a speech about the person and becomes communion with the presence, the texture of life changes. Not with trumpets, not with posters, but as a steady, almost shy reordering. Right contacts come without networking gymnastics. The closed door that would have consumed a week of pleading swings open on an unnoticed hinge. The body, no longer terrified by management, begins to obey the law of life and rhythm. Sleep returns like a faithful friend. Appetite realizes its measure without argument. Hearts that had stiffened at one another find they are thawing in the same sun. And a sentence that could not be heard yesterday arrives today in a tone both can bear. This is not spectacle. It is order appearing where disorder had claimed a stage. Understand cause and effect in its proper axis. We are not using God to get things. We are not hiring the infinite to serve the finite program. We are yielding belief in appearances, yielding the claimant called me. And in that yielding, reality is given room to be itself as our experience. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things find their place. As credence drains from the white poodle, the show loses cast and audience. As attention abides in God is, the infinite invisible governs, and the human scene, impressionable as clay, takes the impress of truth. By their fruits ye shall know them. This is our standard, not boasts. Spirituality publishes itself as peace under pressure, not as a certificate on the wall. It shows as integrity when compromise would seem profitable. It is wisdom that arrives before the dilemma hardens, guidance that spares a detour, speech that does not have to be retracted. It is supply in right measure, not hoarding, not tightness, just the sufficiency of the hour, with overflow enough to bless another without calculation. It is compassion without strain, patience that is not an act, a cleanliness of motive noticeable even to those who do not share our words. These are not the achievements of a reinforced I am. They are the fruit of presence recognized. Watch the small proofs, for they are the practice fields of confidence. A bill meets its counterpart, quietly, because God is substance, God is order, and under that government the check is an instrument, not a God. A conversation you dreaded unfolds as reconciliation because God is love, and love was present before your mouth opened. The schedule that threatened to shatter you rearranges itself while you stand still, because God is law, and law does not crush, it harmonizes. The body listens to intelligence, not to fear, because God is life, and intelligence is the law of being. Choices brighten accordingly without the hysteria of self-rescue. Here's the paradox carried to its blossom. The less we say, I am, the more life shows what we are. Why? Because what we are is the visibility of what God is. The sun needs no slogan to be light. It shines, and the window, cleared of slogans and soot, displays day. So with you. In the silence where you cease insisting, the word that was before words becomes flesh, as your timing, your tone, your provision, your rest. God is. God is. God is. And the Father within doeth the works. So we do not announce, we abide. We do not perform, we permit. We do not test, we trust. And day by day, without fanfare, communion becomes demonstration. Reality recognized, expressing itself as harmony in the visible scene. Listen once more and let it settle the matter. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I in the midst of you am mighty. Stand there and let what is be seen. Now make this very plain and very practicable. Do not wait for storms to remember the harbor. Do not ring the bell of heaven only when the ship scrapes rock. Make your daily contact. Never let a day pass without a period of quiet communion. Short is fine, but real is necessary. If all you have is 3 minutes behind a closed door, take them and let them be God's. If more is given, receive it. But do not bargain with time. Keep the appointment. Morning if possible, evening if you will, or both if grace arranges it. Yet at least once every day, come home within and stand still. The practice is simple, and it is a loop that completes itself. First, withdraw from appearances. Lay down the newspaper of the senses. Set the phone away like a toy. Let today's names and numbers wait in the outer hall. Let the white poodle be where it belongs, nowhere. Second, turn to contemplation. God is life. God is love. God is spirit. God is law. God is substance. God is wisdom. God is the only presence and the only power. Let the phrases walk through consciousness until the mind ceases to reach for mirrors and faces the sun. Third, be silent. Say nothing. Ask for nothing. Test nothing. Listen for the hush beneath thought where the inner assurance announces itself. Fourth, carry the felt assurance into action. Open the eyes and do the next right thing without leaving the sanctuary. Let errands move under government. Let speech be measured by the peace you just met. Protect the work with these gentle prohibitions. Do not use this to impress others. Holiness shrinks from display. Do not argue metaphysics. The word proves itself in fruit, not in debate. Do not measure by quick signs. Seedlings do not endure when pulled by impatient fingers. Let it ripen. Let the infinite invisible shape the visible without your supervision. Do not keep peeking back at the corner to see if the picture behaved. Keep your gaze inward. God is. God is. God is. And rest. Make it a rule of life. Daily contact, not occasional rescue. When the habit of turning within becomes normal, fear loses its leverage. The office, the market, the kitchen, the bedside, all are sanctuaries, because you do not commute to God. You abide in God. You will find decisions arriving without hurry, provisions without flurry, reconciliations without campaigns, because the Father within doeth the works. Now hear, not from me, but from the presence that has awaited this very consent. Fear not, I am with thee. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Look to me and be still. I in the midst of thee am mighty. Make thy daily contact with me, and I will be thy law, thy light, thy life, thy supply, thy protection. Stand there and let what is be seen.